People go to the gym every day, then go home, and some people just stay at home, sit on the couch, and watch TV. Then there are the rebels, the fitness anarchists, who reject these strict classes of people and forge their own path to fitness. They do push-ups in the kitchen, pull-ups off the edge of rooftops and decks, and pop squats while taking shits. They are non-dualistic, and they recognize the truth, that the border between home and gym is a construct, a faint line drawn in the sand that disappears the moment they stretch their arms high and swing from the rafters of their house like chaotic little monkeys. You might be thinking to yourself, yes, I want to be a free-thinking fitness fanatic, but what if my house doesn't have rafters? Ah yes, you, my friend, are ready. Take this fish oil capsule. Let us escape the fitness matrix together. This is an actionable video, so get your notes ready. Here's what we'll cover. Environment design and automatic movement, the concept of an invitation to play, the playground mindset, and the main topic of the video, the matrix of architecture. Topic 1. Environment design and automatic movement. One of the best ways to succeed in fitness is to make exercise effortless. The best way to do this is to design your environment in a way that it regularly gets you moving and working out. If you stay in an environment for long enough, sooner or later you'll adapt and become accustomed to it. So if there are chairs and couches everywhere and a TV or two hitched to the wall, then chances are you'll tend towards using them and be less likely to exercise. But if you design your environment in a way that it facilitates what I call automatic movement, then you won't even have to think about exercise. You'll be moving automatically. Here are some ways to design your environment for automatic movement. 1. Use a standing desk or equivalent while you work or play Minecraft. And when standing becomes too tiring, use the floor. If you use chairs too often, it can cause you to hunch and develop poor posture, as well as atrophy muscles that would otherwise be active while standing. It can shorten muscles like the hip flexors, which can cause you to compensate by tilting your pelvis when you stand, leading to things like anterior pelvic tilt. Number 2. Put your mattress on the floor, and either get rid of the frame, use a low to the ground frame, or try floor sleeping. The reason this is beneficial is that when we use chairs and high bed frames, it biases our bodies to only bend 90 degrees in our knees and hips. But if we fill our house with furniture low enough that gnomes could use it, like beds on the ground and low to the ground couches and chairs, then we become accustomed to regularly expressing full range of motion. We squat every time we get up and down. This can help you stay capable as you grow into old age and make you less likely to die or injure yourself from falling. Get used to the ground. You'll thank me later. 3. Use a squatty potty or equivalent. A squatty potty allows you to elevate your feet so that you're squatting when using the toilet. This is good for similar reasons as the mattress on the floor, but it also helps alleviate constipation. This is because our bodies evolved to poop optimally in the alignment that squatting puts you in. A simple thing I do when using the toilet is bend forward at the hips and hike my feet a little higher, which improves my alignment and helps everything go smoothly. 4. Have specific spaces for specific activities. If you have your computer in your bedroom or the kitchen, then it means you won't have to walk very far to change activities, which means more sitting and less time moving. If you mix the spaces and activities, you are also less likely to stay focused on a single task, and might get distracted by doing things like watching TV in bed instead of sleeping, or binging chips instead of working. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, has a great mantra for this concept of space-specific activities. It goes, one space, one use. Personally, I think fitness to some degree can be implemented in every space, as long as it isn't a distraction and instead either helps you with the desired activity or is neutral. Plus, getting spurts of movement between chunks of desk work can be a super beneficial thing for your health and mental clarity. 5. Designing your environment for automatic movement can be aided by removing distractions that would otherwise nudge you to be sedentary. This can mean eliminating extra chairs around the house, or putting a blanket over your TV, or keeping it in an armoire with doors. Find a way to put screens and distractions out of sight so that you are more focused, active, and encouraged to move automatically. These are all ways to incorporate movement that don't take any extra time when using. The squatty potty might even save time. However, to reach full-form fitness anarchist, you must establish your rebelliousness in more explicit ways. One way is to create inviting little sanctuaries for exercise that aren't just the gym, little invitations in your environment to play. Topic 2. An invitation to play. There's a concept in early childhood education called an invitation to play, which essentially is using toys to create an inviting little space for children to play and use their imagination. This concept is separate from my brand, but I found that it holds a key insight into how many of us as adults can create little spaces like this using exercise equipment. An example of this would be using a door frame pull-up bar. If you have a bar on your doorframe that you walk through regularly, its ease of access can be inviting and make the chances of you doing pull-ups much more likely. Something I've also done is attached rings to the pull-up bar for conveniently doing things like dips and Australian pull-ups. Another example would be keeping dumbbells or kettlebells on the floor somewhere in a place that's easy to see and easy to access, or keeping some mats on the floor for a nice place to move and stretch. Although, beware of endocrine disruptors from plastic mats that can fuck with your hormones. Something I've also done is have a Bosu ball in the dining room for bouncing and balancing on, as well as a stationary bike that is also convenient. Keeping a Swiss ball handy is also a great invitation to play. Swiss balls are so freaking fun, although probably toxic AF considering the synthetic material they're made of. If you don't like having random workout equipment scattered around your house, then you can be more intentional and buy unique equipment that matches the aesthetic of your house. Maybe something made of wood or metal that accents your other furniture well. Or even use furniture that doubles as workout equipment, like the concept designs for FurFit. The last example is just to simply have open spaces. It might look a little weird to not have furniture in some of your rooms, but I think if you put a poster of Ido Portal on the wall, it will make up for it. Topic 3. The playground mindset. Designing your environment and creating inviting spaces will get you moving and help erase the line in the sand between home and gym. But what happens when you leave home and there are no gyms in sight? The answer is to develop the mindset of a fitness anarchist, to be resourceful and conscious of your environment, and then to play within its constraints. My brother and I would sometimes play this game where every time there was a curb while we were walking, we would balance on it. It was required, as we'd say. Little things like this, or skipping on the lines of a crosswalk, become natural and rather automatic when you have the mindset that the world is your playground. You might decide to take the stairs occasionally instead of using the elevator, or end up running somewhere when all that is required is walking. Or maybe you decide to walk or bike when you could drive. Parkour is just one example of how people take advantage of an urban environment in order to move well. Urban settings can also be great places to do calisthenics. When the world is your playground, stairs become an opportunity to bulletproof your knees, a rail becomes an opportunity to test your balance, and a roof edge, if it's sturdy, becomes a place to work your upper body. You start to see all sorts of things that you can climb on, balance on, and jump to, and you begin to understand the truth, that the world is your home and the world is your gym. Topic 4. The matrix of architecture. Things like too many chairs or TVs on the wall can create an environment that promotes laziness. But it's not just within your home, but also your home itself, and the larger architecture of civilization that it's a part of. It can seem hard to exit the matrix when a lot of the places that we live have car-dependent infrastructure with roads arranged in grids that create a literal matrix of houses and buildings. It's not very inviting to go outside and have the first thing that you see be pavement and cars potentially roar and die. It's so easy to just shut the door and remain in your little bubble. Inside your little bubble, your sharp-cornered box, you are walled off from the outside world, from nature, sunlight, and other humans. Perhaps even living in a cramped apartment with no backyard to play in. Finding sanctuary in a private space is wonderful, but this isolation has become a norm for much of the world and has created an epidemic of loneliness and laziness. The lack of nomadic living that we see in the modern world, combined with car-dependent infrastructure, creates an excess of sedentary convenience. We can now shop, socialize, and desensitize ourselves online. This makes leaving our little bubbles that much harder. Even the status symbol that a large house represents has much of the time become divorced from its utility as a place to provide shelter for your tribe. It has become a private space to showcase belongings and art instead of a place for community, connection, and physical activity. This isn't all bad, but this trend makes it hard to meet many of the basic human needs that make life feel rich. You don't have to follow this trend. You have a choice to make your home a place for community, connection, and physical activity. There's a quote from movement guru Ido Portal that's on the wall in his gym that I really like. "Let them dirty the walls, motherfuckers." This doesn't mean to throw mud on the walls, we'll get to mud walls shortly, but rather to give people permission and freedom to fully inhabit a space, to do handstands against the wall, or to play floor as lava. Your house could be that space, and you can keep your nice paintings too. Just maybe put them in a place where they won't get wrecked if people are wrestling and doing jujitsu in the living room. I remember as a kid bouncing bouncy balls around the house and trying to bounce them up and down the stairs. We had some close calls with some vases, but in my mind it was so worth it. Obviously, if it's someone else's house, you should be mindful of their space and their belongings, and do your best not to break their several $1,000 antique lamp. But your space can get as wild as you want it to. The table can be a place for you to lay on, if it's sturdy. And given the fact that there seems to be fewer and fewer public spaces for people to hang out without requiring some sort of consumerism, no wonder houseless people congregate in libraries so often. Making your home a place to build community is that much more special. I grew up in a co-housing community, and many of the fond memories that I have are climbing trees or running from house to house through people's backyards with Nerf guns or sticks pretending that we're zombies. It saddens me that so many kids don't get to have that experience. A lot of people are even lucky to have a backyard, and even then, it's probably walled off from the rest of the neighborhood. If you want to learn more about living in community, there's a great website directory you can find at ic.org, IC for Intentional Community. Though the architecture of your house might already be in place, there's still an opportunity to build movement into the design of your house, such as using a ladder for a loft, or using a fireman pole, or making weird stairs out of rocks, and finding unique ways to make going from one space to another more interesting. There's a quote from the creator of Super Mario that is a great mindset to have when adding to the architecture of your house. A good idea is something that does not solve just one single problem, but rather can solve multiple problems at once. What if your house solved the problem of sedentary living? Maybe through furniture that doubles as workout equipment, or windows and murals that create more flow and openness and make your spaces more fun to move in. Unfortunately, building codes make it difficult to make unique houses geared towards solving this, but working around these constraints can potentially be a great way to get your creative juices flowing. There are, however, some places around the world that don't have building codes. Without the limitations of building codes, you can create structures that promote movement, like building pull-up bars into things, and create outdoor spaces and kitchens that get you outside and moving around. These outdoor spaces can help to blur the line between indoors and outdoors, and can make the transition to being outside much more accessible. Plus, these spaces can be great places to ground and connect with the earth barefoot, without the need to walk around in the dirt or pokey grass. You can also build things much more cheaply and sustainably, using materials like straw bales, sand, and clay, as well as avoid toxic conventional construction materials. Using these natural materials gives you the opportunity to create unique and amazing communal spaces for dance and exercise in a somewhat affordable way, and create unconventional environments with things like rounded corners that make a space feel homey. The architecture of our homes can have a huge effect on our mental health and well-being. High ceilings can help create a sense of spaciousness, almost like the extra headroom gives you more room in your head to open your mind to new possibilities. It's a feeling I get sometimes when I walk into a huge church and lift my head up to the sky. That being said, I'm also a huge fan of tiny houses for different reasons. Fitness not only becomes more automatic when you are able to build it into your designs, but the creating and building itself helps you stay fit. In a place with no building codes, if you know what you're doing, you can let your creativity run wild. I know for me, having that freedom just makes me want to keep building things. I'll digress for one moment to mention that I've found that the landscape and climate around me contributes immensely to how active I am in the world. I've lived in the woods most of my life, and in contrast with this, being out in wide open spaces seems to be more inviting for me. I can actually see places where I'd like to walk to or go explore. By contrast, living in the woods can seem almost claustrophobic. That being said, it can also help to have variation in the landscape, like mountains, which adds an enticing place to adventure across. So it's not just the architecture of the buildings and houses that can get you outside and moving, but also where they are built. Food for thought if you are thinking about moving or trying something different. It can seem overwhelming to tackle this matrix of architecture, but you don't have to be alone in your endeavor to create spaces for fitness and community. Maybe your neighbors will warm up to the idea of tearing down all the fences, gates, and walls to create spaces for kids and adults to play. There's an amazing video that explores concepts like this, called How to Turn Your Neighborhood into a Village, that I highly recommend watching. There are so many ways to start taking small steps towards an active life, making small changes in your environment, creating little invitations to play, changing your mindset, and intentionally creating space in your life for fitness, fun, family, and friends. Maybe it's time to cross the road and invite your neighbors to come outside, to break the habits of sedentary life and escape the matrix of architecture. The world is your playground. Go play.